Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for co-creating with me today. I have something different. I've been playing over the last couple of weeks with the thought of maybe sharing the stage, sharing the spotlight with some people that I thought um, my YouTube viewers would find interesting and certainly relate to and feel connected to as family. And so one of those people today happens to be Arlene, who mentored with me, was part of my online community for a while, and then found her wings and went on her way. And now she has her own YouTube channel, and I'm very excited for her. So welcome, Arlene. It's nice to have you here with us. And
Thank you for having me.
Arlene's company is IntuitiveWorksAMC, and I'll list her information below. And the reason I wanted to have Arlene on today is because I find her journey very, very interesting. And I've had the pleasure of connecting with her many times. And as I've said, she's been a part of my community. And one of the things that was of interest to me was the fact that she has two boys who have autism. And throughout my career, the last 20 years, I've worked with, parents and also children who have had autism. And I'm constantly being asked my thoughts about it. So I thought, why not bring Arlene on today? We'll go a little bit into autism, see how she's handling these crazy energies that we're in, and maybe some intuitive insights from her on how to be in flow and maybe what to expect coming up. So again, I welcome you, Arlene. Thank you for being here and sharing your time and space with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
Of course, it's my pleasure. And so let's talk about your boys, because I know that they are very unique in themselves, and you have actually figured out their code. And I say that because a lot of parents don't always understand their children. And it's interesting to me when I'm working with somebody and then I look at the blueprint for the parents, and also the soul blueprint for the parents and also for the children, and I see why they're here and how they incarnated. And 99% of the time, in my experience, the children are here because in other lifetimes they were overachievers, very high level thinkers, very high level communicators. Most of them were very scientifically minded, and they were high level communication. And in this incarnation, they come in dumbing that all down in order for themselves to learn how to communicate in another way, but also to help the parents communicate in another way and be more present. Because what I find is that parents who have children who have autism are not always present. They're everywhere else, but in the present moment. And in order to connect to, because connection is very important, their child, it really requires them to do a tremendous amount of work and become present, connecting with their child. What do you think about that?
So it's interesting because you know, as you said, people do ask me quite a bit, like how's it for you, being a single mom, raising two boys on the spectrum. And my oldest is now 19 and my youngest just turned 17. And it feels like a total different lifetime ago almost, where in the beginning it was very much survival mode, right? That's like where I was. I was very much survival mode. But one thing I have learned now through those more challenging times, and it's not that things stop getting challenging, it's just you see them from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing I tell parents all the time is, especially when you have children with special needs, it's your ego has to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Like that aspect of, as a parent, you always have, when you when you want to become a parent, you're like, oh, I want this for my child, I want that for my child. And as much as like, yes, you know, you bring that in and you love that and you want to instill these things in your children, I've also had to learn that no, it doesn't matter what I want. It's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like one of my biggest lessons that I've learned in being able to see my children for who they are. So seeing them, right, not just about what I wanted for them, is taking that time to really let them unfold in front of me. And that was one of the biggest lessons I've learned through this journey of being a parent with special needs children.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that parents with children of autism sometimes can get stuck in the discomfort, right, of that issue with communication, not being able to reach the child or understand the child. And that's kind of the beauty of autism, you know. The autism specifically on a metaphysical level is happening because that parent or those associated with that child are being pushed into their 5D creator state through the experience of connecting with the autistic child, you know. And it's always a given in every single session I have ever done, where by the end of our time working together, myself and the parent or myself and the child, um, there's always expansion, especially on the level of the parent who comes into complete awareness and surrender to what is, and then understands what that child is here for, you know. And they can come in with very interesting and special gifts. I know someone who has an autistic son who communicates through a computer keyboard. And from what I understand, he can do readings, right? So they come in. Just because they're locked up in the body doesn't mean that they don't understand. It's just that they're not capable of the mechanics of the physical communication or also the spoken communication, right? So we have to find another way to allow for that. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant that they put a keyboard in front of him and he was able to type out what, you know, what he was wanting to communicate or what he was wanting to say. And then from what I understand, you know, he was doing reading. So I think that that's quite amazing. I also know that we've talked about your boy who holds the vibration or the frequency of love. And through physical touch or the act of hugging, he can transmit love, which is healing to the person that he's hugging. And that is another powerful aspect that these people are bringing through, these young people are bringing through, that they have these capabilities. Wouldn't you say?
Yes. It's interesting because, you know, with both my boys, you know, even though they're both on the spectrum, but they're both very different. They're both very different. And, you know, with my oldest, for a long time, it took a while for him to communicate. So we used to use pictures, and that's how we would communicate, was through pictures. And, you know, and then I learned just, you know, very simple sign language as well, just to kind of help keep that communication, help him to see me, and, you know, I can see him, and we keep that eye contact, because eye contact is, you know, difficult for them. So it was just always kind of, and again, like when we said, that brings again that aspect of presence, right? Because then you're right there in that moment. You're sharing that communication with each other, but it's different. It's like another elevated level to it. And yes, and I find, they say to with children with autism that, they struggle with that connection emotionally, where I can only speak for my boys, and that wasn't something I found with them. Like especially with my oldest, he was very much where he enjoyed hugging and being in close, proximity with people. Sometimes it was a little too much. Sometimes he didn't realize, hey, there's a bubble, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's cute now that you're 4, but when you're like 15, it's not going to be so cute,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, and it's interesting too with my oldest, when he was especially younger, because again, he struggled with communication. But I could already sense him, even when I was pregnant with him. I just knew, I'm like, this child, like you're powerful. Like I just knew it. Like I could feel him. Like when I was doing Reiki on people and stuff too, where I'm like, oh, you're helping me. Like I could feel that, right? And then when he was born, I don't know if you remember the Green Mile, that movie, The Green Mile, and how the gentleman in prison, like his way of helping people is when he would touch them and then he would cough it out. And my youngest did that for a while there. Like here he was,
Mm-hmm.
not even one, and he was touching my back, and also he would just be like, like he was
Mm-hmm.
taking it out, and you can feel it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you have my youngest, where he's very much, science based, very that kind of logical, but yet he has this compassion for him too, and this empathy where he can feel it too, where he's just like, I just felt like that person needed a hug, mom, or maybe they just needed a joke,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing how, as this time has grown, like how self-aware they've become and become more aware of their surroundings. It's
Mm-hmm.
not always present, but and it's like, it's not always there, but for a majority of the time, it always amazes me just how self-aware they're becoming and the self-advocates they're becoming for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I tell you, it's amazing because I see it with, I know my clients, I'm seeing it, I'm seeing the growth. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel that, um, as these frequencies move higher and higher, and of course we move with them, and we're in these higher elevated streams, um do you find that they're also shifting higher, like maybe abilities are opening up that weren't there, or maybe their communication is coming online more? Do you have
Yeah,
noticed
yeah,
something?
yeah. I'm noticing. Yeah, I can notice that. Like um, in a lot of different ways, where it's, I guess in some ways we can say it's almost like they're more like flighty kind of sometimes, where they're just kind of, it's like, okay, like let's come back here for a second so we can communicate, right? So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I find that, like I find, and I guess too, because I'm constantly shifting and changing, and because they're so sensitive, and it's the three of us in our home, right? We've built this, you know, this partnership between us. It's not just mother and parent, like, mother and children. It's like we're a team, right? That's what I always
Right.
say. We're a team. So I find that they are very sensitive to the energies too, and they'll even come and say to me, "Mom, is there something happening with the energies? Because, like, I'm just struggling, like, especially with like linear time." And I find during the summertime, especially this time around, it was really hard for them to stay in linear time. They're just like, wait, what day is it again? Where
Mm-hmm.
are we? Like, and I'm finding that. So yes, I find that they're becoming more aware of the
Yeah.
shift in energies, feeling that within the house, just within themselves, feeling more tired or feeling more awake. Or I find too that it'll come out more in their creativity, especially for my oldest, because he's very much into, drawing, drama and stuff like that. Like, so that was his big thing in school too, is drama. And I find that that will come out more. He'll have more ideas of things he wants to do. And my youngest, he's a little bit more reserved sometimes, but I can just see that with him too, and just in his way of thinking, like the way he presents things to me. And and again, like I said, he's very into the scientific stuff, so he'll be like, he just brings that more
Mm-hmm.
elevated awareness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
I, ever since I started working with autism, I've always held this impression, belief that, over the course of time, over the course of, the next, I don't know how many years, um, those individuals with autism are going to evolve themselves into a higher level of consciousness and away from autism, because what it really was about was them coming here to assist and support the souls they contracted with for the experience of understanding and learning how to communicate from another place, right? So when they have parents like you who gets it, and you're there and you can help them and you could teach them and you could watch what, when they are feeling these shifts, and explain it to them and help them redirect themselves, that opens that pathway so much faster than if they're dealing with a parent that just gets frazzled by them, because it's very can be very, very powerful. And yeah, I find that too, like, I know that there's many out there that don't like to be touched. There's the, they have the like textile issues and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But I also feel like a lot of times with that, the frequency that that child or individual is running who has autism
Mhm.
is so incredibly high that if they are being interacted with by somebody that is very 3D, that distortion of the 3D energy, so that lower frequency kind of knocks out their field. So they don't like to be touched or touch because
Mhm.
they're operating from their own bubble, so to speak. Like they're already in 5D, you
Yeah.
know?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, they're already in 5D. So, it's like if somebody comes along and, tries to touch them, it's like, oh, don't. And you could actually see that, that like energy
Mhm.
when, because I've
Yeah.
seen it so many times, it's like, oh, don't touch me, because it's very disruptive to the field, especially because their frequency is so highly elevated. Have you
Yes.
noticed that?
Yeah, I did notice that in some ways. It was making me laugh. 'Cause it's reminding me of. So my boys were lucky enough to be part of this community center here in Brantford, where I live, and Lansdowne Children's Center, and they work with special needs kids, especially with autism, and because they learned like all the different workers that they had, they learned about me and stuff like that, and what I do, right, and what I am. So for them, when my boys started showing little similarities, they weren't surprised. But it always made me laugh because they always said, whenever we're thinking about hiring somebody new, we let Isaiah meet them first, which is my oldest. We let him meet him first because he already knows. Like they just know that he can tell by their vibration and
Yep.
everything if they're a right fit to work with the children or not. It was so neat. Like I just thought, like, how beautiful is that they recognize that in my son.
Empowering. How
Yes.
empowering for him. Think
Yeah.
about how that elevates his level of consciousness, right? Because even
Mhm.
though it's not quite expressed like, we might express it, boy, oh boy, it's really buzzing around inside of him, and that feel good moment is elevating him in new ways. And how beautiful that they do
Mhm.
allow for that, right? I should also have mentioned when I introduced you that you are located in Canada.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the places that Arlene is talking about are based out
In
of
Ontario,
Toronto.
Canada.
Yeah, in your area. So,
Yeah.
so let's go back when, you're before maybe pre-birth of your boys. Were you in your intuitive work back then? Where were you with your spirituality?
Um, yeah, I was a bit because I've been doing, I guess, starting when I was 16. I'm almost 46 now, so it's been
Mhm.
quite a few years. Um, so yeah, it started there when I was because I had moved from Ontario to BC, so it's a different province, and I had lived there for a few years. And my whole point when I moved there was to start this business with a friend of mine, and was to be this, like holistic kind of business where I was going to be doing the Reiki, she'd be doing readings. So that was the plan. It didn't exactly work out that way, but so I was doing that a little bit there. So it's been always been off and on where I kind of dive into it a little bit, either by, offering services, or I was making products, to help, with ailments, and just like, making bath bombs, bath salts, different things. So it's always been there, um, but maybe not as intense or as potent as it is now, of course, right? But again, it took a long time, and and as well, like I've suffered depression since I was really young, so since at least 13 is when I can start remembering it. So that was always a big part of my journey and evolution too, I feel, right? And and again, it's I know it might sound like I'm putting like all this pressure on my children when I say this, but it's not that. But I do feel that once I became a mom, and then especially once they got diagnosed, I felt like that was my purpose, and
Yeah.
that really helped push me not out of my depression, but it helped me to really change my perspective,
Hmm.
right? And um, yeah, and it's awesome when we were talking back about, just with parents especially. I find that sometimes, and again, it's not a judgment, but I can find that they get very stuck on the label,
Mm-hmm.
right? For a lot of parents, they get very stuck on the label.
Yep.
And and something I've always told parents, and even through the center that was at, talking to other parents that were there, I'm thinking, don't get focused on the label, because honestly, the label just is what will help your children get the supports they need. But that doesn't define your child. And even
Yes.
now with my boys, now that they're old enough that they kind of, they've heard the label thrown around. So they've asked more questions, especially my youngest, and we talk about it. And I tell them, like, that's just a part of you, but it's not all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that's so important for the child to know and for the parents to know. That's just one aspect of your child. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
a big thing that I've done with my boys too. And again, when they were younger, it was very different. Like, I can't say I'm as evolved as I am now about it, right? Because it was very much, as I was saying to you earlier, it was very much just, survivor mode. I was very much in that survivor mode. It was just, it was overwhelming because, like I said, they were very young. I was a single mom. I've never done this. I didn't really have the support, that I needed because, family didn't really understand
Mm-hmm.
what autism was. And to them, they thought I was being the strict parent, and in some ways I had to be the strict parent, right? Because I had to help them build this level of confidence that they didn't even know they needed, and I didn't totally understand they needed either. And and it was hard, and I feel like that's something too. I feel that a lot of parents need to understand is that level of compassion for themselves, in that aspect of when your child first gets diagnosed. It's one, again, it's like we said, it's not about you, it's about them, right? It's about helping them.
Yep.
But it's also having that compassion for yourself of, like, you're probably not going to enjoy being a parent for the first few years, because I didn't. I loved my children, but did I enjoy being a mom? No, because I didn't get a chance to be a mom. I
Mm-hmm.
had all these other hats but mom. I was drill sergeant all the time. That's what I felt like, because I had to stick to this routine. I had to stick to all these things to really help them, even though it felt uncomfortable, and it wasn't a lot of joy in
Mm-hmm.
that aspect. But I'm so grateful for that now, because now I have these boys who are so self-aware. They are advocates for themselves. They're continuing to grow and learn skills to be more independent, and
Mm-hmm.
now they have this opportunity to unfold and figure out who they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, but it takes a long time to get there. And I just feel that for a lot of parents, and even still me now, like, I still deal with a lot of the guilt about that, right? About not being who I am now back then. But I feel it was because of them that helped me to get to this point that I am
You
now.
weren't supposed to be, and that was part of their soul contract with you, right? Because the soul contract is very, very strong.
Yes.
Autism is about self-growth. Um, it's about pushing
Mm-hmm.
another, right? The individuals who are the parents that they've contracted with, assisting and supporting them in their own growth process wherever they are feeling stuck. So, there's the part of it that is meant to give greater purpose. And it's not always taken or seen in that way because it feels like such a hardship and a challenge. And, the world around us is not really set up to help support that in any way, shape, or form. And but that is going to change as we see the age of Aquarius bringing in. Is it going to help in a year? Probably not. But we can look to the picture that's far out, maybe 10 years from now, and see that there's going to be so much more support for everything that there's no support for now.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is the self-awareness that is gained through the act of going through it, right? And now it's really helped you come into yourself and harness your intuition and your abilities. And now here you are with your own YouTube channel, and you're doing readings, and you're connecting to your higher self, and all of this magical stuff, which is more aligned and closer to probably where your heart was desiring to be 20 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you couldn't get to. And as we always say, you know, the universe always has a plan for us, and even when we don't see it, you know, we were talking about before we started to record, and I was sharing how, you know, I've been on social media very little because I'm really trying to work through these energies and assimilate what's coming in and work and, you know, handle my workload, which is constantly changing. Um and so, you know, in some of that and just sitting and being still, there's also been that, you know, well, I need to do something. There's something, and there's nothing. It's like this void of like darkness, this tunnel, right? That we have to go through sometimes to get to that next level of that next thing that we're supposed to do, right? That next brilliant idea or whatever. And through
Mhm.
that whole process, I kept feeling like, hey, you know, your audience is probably sick of seeing you know why don't you just start bringing in some interesting people and doing some interviews and you know, and letting others see that, you know, everybody is on the same journey. It just looks slightly different, right? And so now here we are, and your journey for you has opened up in this new dynamic. And it was funny because all of a sudden, you know, I was so used to seeing you on Instagram and, you know, doing your readings and your posts on Instagram. And then the next thing I saw is like, oh, that's great. She has a YouTube channel, you know. So I subscribed to your channel. And then I was like, wait, where'd she go on Instagram? And then you weren't on Instagram. And I was like, oh, that's very, very interesting because it's so in alignment with right now, right? It's this lack of desire to be on any social media at all, which is, you know, where we are when we're like about to have this immense shift. We kind of like really come within and become very introspective, you know. So tell us about what you are doing on your YouTube channel. What are you offering there?
I don't know. It's so weird to be on YouTube too because I was trying to get away from any kind of platforms and everything because I've never connected with social media. Like I've just never felt a connection to it. But I thought because I was debating, kind of offering services again. So I'm thinking, okay, well, how do I get people to know about me? Because it's not like the old days where hey, if you just use the yellow pages,
Yeah,
right? Or like websites, right? It wasn't like the old days or just like,
yeah,
word of mouth. I'm thinking you had to do something, right?
yeah.
So, and yeah, I just dated myself. But,
Well, you know,
so
it's because there's so many people out there now that are doing this work, right? That there's just so many, but how are you going to know what somebody's specialty is? Like somebody that would want to connect with you for the purpose of understanding themselves and their relationship with their autistic child to a greater degree, you would be the perfect person for them to connect with, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So here you are on your YouTube channel, and I know you're doing readings, right?
Uh,
What can people
it's a bit of
expect tuning
everything.
in?
It's kind of a bit of everything because, as you know, I just listen to my higher realm team, and it's what they say you do, I do, right? Like my joke is I just do what the voices in my head tell me to, right? So that's kind of how it works. It's a bit of everything, I put energy updates, so the current energies that I'm sensing and picking up on, and just kind of what the collective could possibly be feeling individually.
Mhm.
um, so I'll talk about that. I'll share messages from the higher realm team, so any kind of messages that they want to share, to help with navigating this ascension process. And then sometimes too, if I'm called to, I'll pull some cards and do energy work through the cards. I also post things about my children and just the journey with autism and with them, and just information again too to help support children with autism, like support
Mhm.
individuals with autism, but also those who care about them, and just ways so that they can support each other. And
Mhm.
that's kind of, so it's just a stew of everything, right? It's
Yeah.
whatever, like I said, it's whatever I'm told to do is what I post and I share. And yeah, so it's a bit of everything.
Cool. That's
It's a mixed bag.
that's wonderful. Well, we love a mixed bag, right? It's good stuff, and you know, what people need to check you out on your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
And I will make sure that I leave your links below so people know how to find you.
Yes.
Um, so what do you see as your next step going forward? Anything coming to you for any new alignments with services or work or anything?
Well, I feel like I've been in this never ending activation. It just feels like it's just constantly going. So I've been, it's been a bit of a struggle. And, with the summertime, with my boys being home from school. So I kind of just put everything on hold a little bit, right? Like I kind of just put the business part on hold and I wasn't offering any services just of yet. But now that they're going back to school tomorrow, and so later this month, I'm reopening for appointments so people can book sessions with me. And so that's kind of where things are going. I don't know if I've told you, but I'm in the process of getting my certificate to be a reverend, so metaphysical reverend. And
Oh,
so, yeah, so I kind of want to. I'm still not sure what I'm doing with that. It was kind of, again, my guys are just like, okay, it's finally time to do it. Let's do it. So I did the course and now I'm just waiting for the last information and see what kind of comes through and wait for the
yes.
teacher to say, okay, yes, you pass, whatever. So
Yeah, yeah,
waiting for that. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
And then maybe,
beautiful.
yeah. And then maybe eventually, who knows, maybe I'll officiate weddings, right? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
something else too.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know, but
mean, listen, I look at it all as like initiations, right?
yes.
Like an initiation, an activation. You're getting some kind of code exchange from that, right? There's
Yeah.
key codes and light codes and all
Mhm.
kinds of things happening with that. It's definitely an initiation, an activation, and
Mhm.
so yeah, that's
Yep.
awesome. How fun is that? And it's bringing in new energy for you in a different way, right? Calling in something new for you to explore.
Mhm.
This is where, one thing I would like to leave as a takeaway on this is that whether we do something with it or not is irrelevant.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of people out there that take Reiki or, or get involved in Reiki and they only do Reiki 1 or they only do Reiki 1 and 2. And then they're like, oh, I only did Reiki 1 and 2. I'm like, yeah, be proud of that, celebrate that because that's an initiation, it's an activation, it's a code exchange. And sometimes all it's meant to do is flip on those key codes that needed something to actually kick it off so that it would flip on in the body. And that was it, right? So we need to celebrate it even if we don't do anything with it. I could tell you, I could paper my walls with the certificates I've had,
Yeah.
and most of it just taking the first level and then thinking, I don't resonate with this. Like, this doesn't resonate with me at all, right? And so I took the first one, but always with an awareness that it shifted something, it gave me something, it empowered me in some way, shape, or form. And the only one that I really went the gamut with was Reiki, where I got certified as a teacher for both Asubi and Karuna Reiki. And
Yes.
and I was teaching for a long time and I was doing Reiki for a long time. And then all of a sudden one day it was I think 2018 maybe. Yeah, 2000, no, 2017. It was
Mhm.
2017. I was in my office because I had an office then. I've always had an office. I had an office my whole career doing healing work. And my higher self was like, okay, stop doing hands-on healing and let's do one-on-one, face-to-face. And I'm like, oh, how's that going to go? And they're like, get your head out of the way and let it just unfold. And I was so glad that I did that because, you know, COVID came along in 2020, the beginning of 2020, and I was already prepared. And a
Mhm.
lot of people who were doing the table work and whatnot really couldn't work unless they were seeing clients on the slide, which, who would
Mhm.
do that? Um, and there I was already online. I was doing Zoom sessions and everything. And that's when I built the Mastery School. So the Mastery School was a byproduct of COVID because I needed a place for people to land and create a community of like-mindedness. And yeah, So sometimes, you might go for the reverend thing, and then all of a sudden it's a catalyst to something else. And you look back and you're like, whoo, how did I get here? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And part of the journey is the fun of the process, the excitement of the process that we're going through. Right.
Mhm.
I mean, that's how I feel when we have an opportunity. Now, for me, it's art classes. I'm not taking any metaphysical classes, right? I mean, certainly if there was something that was interesting to me, I would definitely jump in and do that. Although I have to say that I did start studying with someone who is what I deem is a pretty high level astrologer, and I'm in her online mentoring community because I want to understand the solar shifts to a greater degree and the planets that are
Mhm.
interacting with them, so I can understand myself and my shifts of what's
That's
been
so
taking place. Yeah. So that's something new for me. I stopped following astrology for many years and years ago. I felt like it had become irrelevant because the energies were like really wonky. It was like trying to surf like these mega waves, out in the ocean. And then all of a sudden, like something shifted, and I was like, oh, it's time to look at astrology again, but from a different perspective. So it just helps me when I feel like something is happening, I can look at my chart and go like, oh, okay, well, that makes complete sense. So yeah, along with you that otherwise it's art classes, and I'm everything art. So
yes.
as you can see from behind me,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's great. And so if you were to give somebody advice on how to navigate these crazy energies and these extremes that we're having, what would you say to them?
First thing is compassion, right? Is be compassionate with yourself. That's huge. Try to, as much as you can, let go of the judgment,
Mm-hmm.
attached to all of it. And practice non-attachment. That's a huge thing because nothing is permanent. It's all, nothing is permanent. So that's the biggest thing. And it's just, breathing is super important because breathing helps bring you back, not just to presence, but I always call it conscious presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you're
Yep.
in that awareness that you're being present,
And an
right? Until
awareness that you're
you don't
breathing.
have to be anywhere, so that's why
Yeah.
you're breathing, right? So,
Yeah.
and just it's just simple little things too. Like you don't have to sit there in meditation for 5 hours, like you really don't. Like, and sometimes meditation can be a distraction, right, from what's important.
I
So,
say that all the time because yeah, I vibrate so high that many times I can't get into meditation because I'm like already there, and so it's like where to go, because the minute I close my eyes, I'm never here. I'm somewhere else,
yes,
right? I've just popped into a new reality somewhere. So,
yeah,
and sometimes, yeah, meditation is not good. Don't meditate when you're heavy in your mind, right? That's not the right time to meditate. The right time to meditate is when you're feeling peace in your heart. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I always say to people, it's just a matter of being as present as you can be. And I understand that can be difficult. And that's why I say, it's just be compassionate with yourself. It comes in like flows, right? Where it's not always going to be this, right? That's life. It's ebb and flowing, right? So it's, just do as much as you can to let go of the need to control it all, right? I always say, yes, you can have a plan, but of course, God laughs at you when you say my plan, right? So it's kind of like, you can have as much of a plan as you want, but always leave space for God's hand to come in and touch you with miracles,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's always leave space for the wonder, leave space for the magic, right? And be in nature as much as you can. I know soon, we're moving out of summer now, we're going into winter, but it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of even just opening your window, looking at a tree, anything, because it's all about your state of mind and where you're at. You don't have to physically be there or touch things. If you can just see it in your mind, boom, you're there. You can connect to the energies, right? Just like
Yeah.
with crystals, you don't have to have the crystal. Just think of the crystal, boom. It's already in your. It's in the like the database
The
of,
quantum field. Yeah.
it's in there. So it's just waiting for you to pick, like apples, right?
Yeah.
It's all there already, just for you to touch. So if you can remember that, it helps to bring that sense of inner calmness so that you don't feel so chaotic in the energies. And just movement is huge. just
Mhm.
movement, moving it when you can, just,
Yeah.
and like I said, I love telling people, like, stance yourself like a sumo wrestler, right? So this way you're connected, you're anchoring into your own energy, because we're not anchoring into
Mhm.
Gaia anymore. We're anchoring into our own
Correct.
being, right? So you're doing this sumo wrestling and you're just like, you're just letting it out and just like
Mhm.
waving and moving and just letting it flow and just feel the energy expand. And that will
Yeah.
help you as well to like be more present and anchored. So you're not distracted by all the illusion. And
Yeah.
that's kind of just little tidbits I give
That's
to people.
That's all great advice, all great advice. And if you can't do all of it, do at least one part of that. Do one thing that you can, and maybe the next day do something else, and just be okay with not having to know. Be, right? Just taking
Yeah.
it a day at a time, and don't be in tomorrow, just stay in today and be as present as we can be.
Yeah.
And everything can be on its own timeline instead of, in the mind's timeline. And this way we're flowing in the higher states of consciousness. So thank you so much for joining me here today, sister. I really appreciate this.
Oh,
Um,
no, thank you.
yeah, lots of fun to connect with you. So I'm going to leave Arlene's information below, how to contact her, if you want to follow her YouTube, if you want to book a session with her. As you could hear, she has incredible insights. And thank you again for joining me and doing this session. I don't know, I definitely want to do more of these. This was a lot of fun connecting with you today. So. Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it and love you.
Thank you. I love you too. In closing, I'd like to say thank you to all of you who are tuning in to watch this today. For me, this is something new. I have been really called to doing something different, sharing in a different way. I don't know what that's supposed to look like, but I thought, hey, why not? This seemed like a lot of fun. I have a few other people that I'm thinking of bringing on to do these one-on-ones. If you'd like to see more of this, please let me know. Drop a comment below. It was a lot of fun for me. I hope you found it interesting. And if there's a particular topic you'd like to hear about, let me know that too. Um, who knows where this is going to go, right? It's something new. I feel like the energies are shifting again, and it's time for a change, time for something new, coming into all new. So let me know if that resonates with you, because I feel like that is going to be the theme. I know September is going to be um an intense month, right? August was intense, but September is going to be way more intense. And even a little bit of October. And so just know that if you're feeling like you're in a void, that's okay. I have felt like I have been in a void, and we have to just walk through whatever it is that we are unwinding from, whatever's presenting. And this is some kind of a new uh change, or new opportunity for me to connect with you in an all new different way. And so who knows where this is going to go. I found that I really enjoyed having this opportunity to co-create together in this way. All right. I wish you a wonderful whatever it is that you're doing. Know that I love you so, so very much. Thank you for joining me here today on this chat with Arlene. I look forward to seeing you guys again real soon. Keep your head up. We're almost through it. I know it doesn't feel like it, but we are getting there. And as I've said before, coming into 2024, once we get into spring, everything is going to start to look different. We'll be shifting into new territory. So this is it. This is the wind down. We're at it now. How long it's going to take is depending on the collective, and how long it takes them to come into their clarity and see with clear eyes, and be willing to accept and embrace what they couldn't before, and move forward through the challenges that they are feeling from what is presenting. Okay, stay in flow with everything. Use Arlene's incredible advice on how to keep yourself present through breath, going outside, connecting in nature, grounding, making sure that you're coming back within, okay? And just being in the work, doing something to keep yourself in the work, to keep yourself present, okay? All right, I'm going to leave this here. Know that I love you very, very much. I will talk to you again soon. I feel like we do connect in so many ways. I know that many of you have told me that I come to you in dream time. Well, I've had some of you come to me in dream time too, as we're connecting and working through whatever to get us all to the next highest state. So keep doing your work. It's always fun when we have an opportunity to come together like this and co-create. All right. Know that I love you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.